Hi, it's Bill Bishop. I'm the Big Idea Coach. This presentation, is all about helping you expand your business opportunities. In my experience working with entrepreneurs and CEOs and leaders of companies, I've concluded that really we're only tapping into at best 10% of our business opportunities. And primarily it's because of the business model that we use, the sort of underlying way of thinking. I call it old factory thinking. And that old factory thinking stops us from seeing that other 90%. It's right in front of us, but we don't seize it because we don't see it. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about new factory thinking and how as a value hub, it's going to help you identify and exploit amazing business opportunities. So be able to make more money, you'll be able to work less, and you'll have much more fun in your business. So I hope you'll join me here for this presentation about how to expand your business opportunities by embracing a new way of thinking about your business called new factory thinking and turning your business into a value hub. Most of us are only tapping into about 10% of the business opportunities that we have. And that's a problem. And there's a reason why we have that problem, and it's actually easy to fix. So, and the way it's easy to fix is to start to think of your business and design your business as a value hub. So I developed this. I know you've all heard me talk about this maybe a few times about new factory being value hubs, but I made this graphic and it's been using it in my talks in the last few weeks. So I just wanted to share it with you so you can really understand the difference between the old factory and the new factory from this perspective. So if you look on that graphic there, on the bottom, what I call new old factory thinking, and it's a value chain. Okay, so this is the way we've designed our businesses forever, for like the last 250 years. And when I was born into this world and became a business person, that was the model that I had in my head, which is that it was a value chain, right? So, it's all predicated on I have some kind of product that I've got. So, I always use the example of hammers because it's just such a basic commodity. Every business has some kind of product or service, and that's what you're trying to sell people, right? And so then you set up your whole business to do that. So back in 1987, I said, well, what's my business? So I'm gonna publish newsletters for people. In those days, print newsletters, and so that's what I did. I set up a whole factory basically to publish newsletters, and we ended up having about 100 clients. So it was actually good because it was a recurring thing, right? I had the raw materials. That was, in this case, what are the raw materials? Well, information, right? We had to gather up information. We were journalists. That was our supply chain. Got to get all this, do these interviews, get this information. And we would assemble that information, it's stories and pictures. And then, we would go out and, company would do sales and marketing, and then they would distribute the newsletter. So, so our business was set up basically as in this model, right? And I had a whole factory going, and it was great. And then the only problem was there were two problems with it. Ultimately, one was more and more competition came along, so I was vulnerable to that because people said, "Well, I can do the same thing that Bill's doing, but I can do it for half the price." So we had to lower our price. And then the second thing is we got completely disrupted ultimately by websites. So in 1994, 95. Websites came along, and suddenly people didn't really want to do print anymore. They were saying, well, I wanted to have a website and do an email newsletter. So we pivoted, but there were a lot of other people in that space, and the money wasn't the same for sure. And I had this huge operation that I was stuck with. I had I had like photocopy machines that were like $1,000 a month leases on 10-year leases. The worst one was the postage meters. We had these huge postage meters that were used for distributing the newsletter that we had to hang on to for years because we had a lease for. And we used to pump out hundreds and hundreds of, maybe thousands a day newsletters through the postage machine. And suddenly that got quieter and quieter and quieter, but the costs were still there. So ultimately I made a lot of money on the front end and lost a fair bit of it on the back end. So this is the thing about the value chain, right? So anyway, so I went through that whole thing a bunch of times actually, and I finally realized, okay, I'm kind of limiting myself, because that was actually the key was, well, I'm limiting myself because I'm only doing newsletters, right? And then if the whole business rises and falls on that product. So I started to think that maybe there was a different way. And the internet really helped with this because it helped me connect with a lot of people and resources. And I realized, okay, well, I'm really creating what I started to call a value hub. And eventually I started calling it old factory, new factory. But a value hub is a whole different way of thinking about your business. And it really opens up so many business opportunities. And so I'll tell you why. So at the heart of an old factory is that product idea. We sell hammers. But at the heart of a new factory value hub, it's some kind of purpose, right? Now that's been thrown around a lot. You got to figure out what your purpose is, right? But usually it's kind of like what Chuck's saying. We have a hammer. Now we're trying to figure out the purpose. Tell people, well, it's use it for nailing nails. That's why we have hammers. So the purpose that it comes after the product. Whereas in this case, the whole thing is designed from square one around the purpose. All right. So what I decided to do is say, well, I'm going to work with entrepreneurs and I want to help them be 10 times more successful, like make 10 times more money, work half as much time, so they're not working all the time, and to have 100 times more fun. And that became the purpose. And then I said to myself, well, I could do anything to help them achieve that purpose. It doesn't matter what the product is. It doesn't matter what the service is. It doesn't matter what the technology is, because all of those things are going to change, right? But the purpose will always stay the same. So that was the anchor. And so I had a really good anchor that I knew was future-proof there. So that's that. Out of that came the big idea company. And so in order to help people do that, I concluded there was two main things. One was to help them come up with a big idea, which was something new, better, and different. It takes everything to a much higher level. And the second thing was that it was going to help them build the business of their dreams, and ideally a new factory that's a value hub. Okay. So all of that is totally future-proof, because that'll be okay for the next 50 years. Because I think Doug's going to help me live for another 50 years, so maybe 100 more. So that's cool. So I got to have something to do. So this is why. But goodness knows what the world's going to be like in 3 years from now, 10 years from now, or 50 years from now. It's going to be quite a different world, I'm sure. But that purpose will hold, right? So then I go, okay, now that I got that solidly anchored, I got to have relationships, right? So you got to have relationships. So then you say, I got to have a community. So instead of going out and selling the hammers to people, like down at the bottom there, sales and marketing, we're developing the relationships first. So it's based on this idea of relationship first. I've developed the relationships first with the kind of people I want to have relationships with, which was entrepreneurs, right? So since then, since back, it was like 1998 when I started to do this, we met tens of thousands of entrepreneurs through all the different ways. And so many of them have come into our network community, right? So and it's free. There's no cost to it, right? So you can see how that was the precursor to things like Facebook and LinkedIn and so on. It's like they were doing the same thing, but I'm seeing it from my own perspective that I'm building this community, right? And this is what you can do, right? You can say, first thing I got to do is get people, I got to meet people, right? And I got to bring them into my community. Now, the community is built around the purpose. So everyone in the community kind of wants to achieve that purpose to some degree, right? That's why the purpose is at the heart of it. They all kind of buy into it, right? That we're all trying to create, in this case, new factories, build great big ideas, help people, and so on. All right, so we have the network. So then the other element is to have a school to say, okay, well, now I'm going to teach people everything I've learned. That's where it starts, right? So I've learned all these things, and I had learned a ton of things from doing the newsletters and all the other stuff I'd done, and all the different programs I've taken and so on. So I thought, well, I should share that with the world, right? So we're all teachers, right? And once again, we go back to Chuck, and it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to have to learn how to take the complicated stuff and make it and simplify it, elevate it to simplicity. But the school is key, right? Because it's like that. But then I also started realizing, well, I don't have to be the only teacher. I'm really like the president of the university, bringing in the other teachers. So that's why, I brought in Chuck, and a few weeks ago I brought in Scott Colby, and I have a list of dozens of other people that I'm going to bring into the school, and we're all going to learn from them, right? And I also make, a lot of that's free, but a lot of it I make money from my books, from my speaking engagements, from the webinars that we've done that we charge for. So you can make a fair bit of money from the school. In some cases, whole businesses become a school. They get away from the doing and they get into the teaching. So, and actually those people, if they do it right, make more money than the doers. So that flips that around about, if you can't do, you teach, right? But in this case, if you want to make more money than doing, teach. That could be how it turns out. Okay. So we're all going to be teachers. We're all going to have a school. And this is all a hub because we haven't even gotten started yet. So then we have an advanced process and member programs. Okay. So what we're all doing here really is whatever you're up to, you're trying to transform people's lives, their businesses and their lives. Even if you're selling hammers, that's actually what you're trying to do. Okay. You're in a transformation business. So if you start thinking of it that way, then you say, well, I'm going to take someone from, A to Z, right? Or Z, depending on what country you're in. And I got to figure out what all those steps are. And I'm going to work that out. So what I did was I developed the Big Idea Adventure program, which has about 1,000 steps and it's actually 7 major stages of it. And I developed this program based on that advanced process, which was to help people, come up with big ideas, get them in the marketplace, and create a new factory. And since we started that, we've had 5,630, and as of yesterday, 38 members in that program that have gone through that process. So, and they're all in keeping with the big purpose here. All right. So then, and then of course we have the member programs. It means that someone who goes through that process and joins the program, they become a member. So that's another thing that we want to do here in the Value Hub, is to turn what were customers in the value chain into members of the Value Hub. Okay. So this becomes a whole different kind of level of relationship that you have with your customers, and now they're members. And members are, they drank the Kool-Aid. Okay. They're all into the purpose, right? They love the purpose that you have, and they made it their purpose too. And also that they're, loyal, and they feel like getting something special. And members tend to buy more too. Okay. That's just the bottom line. Based on, what Amazon says and what we've learned is, Prime members basically spend 3 times more than non-Prime members do. Think of Costco. You have to be a member to get into Costco, but and then think of all the other memberships. And anytime there's a member, you tend to buy more. Okay. And you tend to stick around longer, maybe forever. So you want to turn your customers into members of this value hub. And that leads you into the store, the resource hub, that part. And that's where really so many business opportunities open for you. So down on the bottom, the value chain, we're trying to figure out how to sell more hammers. Okay. And then we have problems, right? So I was talking to somebody yesterday or last week, that's in the business of making rubber. And they're like a middleman between the raw rubber and Goodyear or something. And now there's a shortage of rubber. So their value chain, their supply chain's got a problem, right? So and then the demand at the transaction level is slowing down. So the whole chain is slowing down, right? And so they're frustrated, Whereas you see with the resource hub, you're going, okay, well, maybe hammers is problematic right now, but it doesn't really matter because I'm actually also selling screwdrivers, because I've created a connection with a company that makes screwdrivers. So I don't have to worry about making the screwdriver, but I can be in the middle of helping somebody buy a screwdriver and make some money from that. No sweat, because I just say to my members, listen, you need a screwdriver, you should buy it from our member store. Don't go off to wherever, buy it through us, right? And they will, because they're a member. And he might even say, well, you got a discount because you're a member, right? So, okay, definitely incentivize there, right? But then you go, well, it doesn't have to just be screwdrivers, now does it? And it could be ladders. Oh, it could be car insurance. It could be, travel. It could be, hotels. Almost anything could be in there. Now you might say, well, that sounds crazy, but isn't that what Amazon does? Isn't that what Apple does? They have the Apple store and they have so many things in there that you can buy. Amazon, basically anything. I almost never fail to find something on Amazon. It's even the most obscure thing, be able to buy it there. So this is why you could really have the infinite business if you do this. Now, I'm not saying you're going to become Amazon and have 10 million products in there. You might only have 2 or 3, but you could make just as much money selling those screwdrivers as you were making from selling hammers. But now you're not sweating it anymore. Like, you're not lying in bed going, oh my God, nobody wants to buy hammers anymore. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because you go, well, yeah, but they're going to buy something else. They're going to buy the car insurance, or they're going to buy the travel or something, right? Or they're going to buy the COVID mask or something like that. So as things go, you can just evolve with it, and so many business opportunities. So I presenting this in that perspective, right? As far as business opportunities, because think about it now, right? Big purpose, any business opportunity is possible now. Whereas in the old factory with them selling hammers, all these business opportunities now seem like a distraction, right? It's like, okay, well, if I start getting into screwdrivers, well, then it's a distraction from selling hammers, right? So you think it's a distraction, losing your focus. So you don't even think about those opportunities. I just see so many people so stuck, like just so stuck there. But if it all starts with the big purpose, you go, well, that opportunity, does that fit with the purpose? Does that help my customers, in my case, entrepreneurs? If it does, then they go, there's something, right? And that's why I brought Chuck in this morning, because I go, that helps with the purpose, right? He knows what he's talking about. It's okay, right? I'm going to bring him in. It all fits, right? And so now your mind's open to infinity, right? Network community. It opens the possibilities of meeting so many more people when you have a free network, right? Like, in my mind, it's like I talk to someone and say, well, you have this network, you can come and it's free. And, if you can't make it, come watch the videos. And they go, well, I'll think about it. And I go, well, what's there to think about? Okay. You either want to do it or you don't. Okay. Because it's free. And I go, well, if they don't want the free thing, then they don't want to be in a relationship with me. Fine. On to the next person. But it's sort of infinite, right? It's infinite because, heck, it's free. Start there, right? There's nothing. So I can meet a lot of people, and you just never know what's going to happen. So business opportunities equals people, more business opportunities. The school, well, that's infinite too, because there's an infinite amount of stuff that you can teach people, especially if you bring in other experts, right? That's infinite. So as long as those experts fit with the purpose, then you could have sort of an infinite number of experts, including all the AI experts, right? Like that's the thing that just fits right in there. And then the programs and so on, the advanced process and member programs, well, that's infinite too, because you don't have to worry about if you get more and more members, you could just bring on people that could help take people through that process. It doesn't have to just be you, right? Like I had to not do all 5,637 people in that process. I have other coaches that have helped with that. So that's kind of infinite, right? And then of course our resource store could have infinite things in it too. So what I love about this for myself is that it's very grounded, it's future-proof, and it's infinite. And it doesn't mean that you wouldn't have a factory, right? But value chain. But as soon as you see the alternative, you go, there is an alternative. Maybe I don't want to be the one that owns the factory, right? Maybe I don't want to start up a screwdriver factory. Maybe I'll let someone else run that, but I'll help them, right? But I don't have to take on all that risk and trouble. The other one last thing I want to say about this before maybe we have a few thoughts with each other is that this is hard for us to get our head around. However, from all the the reading I've done about how people thought in the past and so on, like way back when, the Value Hub is actually how we really thought about things initially. Okay, and it was in the during like 17th century and onward, when we started to mechanize our thinking and we started to think like the value chain, and our brains started getting wired around that. And so our brains got wired around the means of production, which was factories and so on, and efficiency and things like that, and productivity. And so we built our means of production as a value chain, and then our brains sort of went along for the ride. But it isn't actually how our brains work. Our brains actually work as a naturally as a value hub. Because we're all, if you think of how your brain's wired, I'm not a neuroscience or anything, but it's a network of neurons and synapses and stuff, and it's all firing in different ways all over the place, and it's a hub in there, right? So it's actually mirroring how we really think about things. So once you kind of break free and say, okay, well, I don't have to do this linear thinking anymore. I'm thinking more in a network, spatial way. Then you realize, okay, that's actually the more natural way for us to think, and then therefore the more natural way to build a business. Okay, so that's a little philosophical there, but at the end, but I do see that as kind of an important part of it, because it's actually unnatural to have a value chain. It's more natural to have a value hub. Okay, so let's I just wanted to say one thing for those of you who don't know. That information and that value hub thing is all in my book, The New Factory Thinker. So if any of you have not read it, I encourage you maybe to pick it up and check it out.